Question one.
Let's do it.
What makes a free safety a star in your defense?
Uh, you know, the the free safety, and we're going to talk about this. We just did a web clinic on this a few weeks ago. The free safety is without question when we're talking 4-2-5 or any single high defense. Uh, he is the single most important player. And we've talked about, for years I've had guys asking, where do I put? I've got this stud. What do I do with him? Where do I play him? We figured this out accidentally in 2005. Uh, we had a kid, my first year coaching. He was a sophomore. He was a stud Mike linebacker in a 4-4 and was just all over the place. I mean, just, he was extremely intelligent, good size. I mean, he's a 6'2", maybe 205, 6'1", 205, something like that. And, as a sophomore, really, really good athlete, but also very intelligent, very instinctive. Like he would see things that on the field that he wasn't coached to see, but he just recognized them. Those are the kids, by the way, that you just stay out of their way. You don't, they go through your drills and they do them wrong and you don't say anything. Okay. You look at sometimes just get out of your own way. At some point that talent, catches up, but don't slow him down. His junior year, he didn't play because he was also a great baseball player. And he was caught up in that don't ruin your baseball career for football thing.
Love this one.
And yeah. And his senior year, he didn't come out. We didn't even, I mean, we just kind of, we asked him, talked to him. I taught him. He was a great kid. And, but his senior year, he didn't come out. And then when the first day of school, of course we start, a month before school, 3 weeks before school. And, first day of school, he came to our head coach and in the commons area, like in the morning, like this is before the first bell of the school year, but he's there. And he comes up to coach and he's like, I made a mistake and I miss football and I want to play football. So we had a meeting and we had that big staff meeting where we talk about like, is this a player thing or is this like, what's the right thing to do for the kid, for the program, all of that. We had lost 10 games his junior year when he didn't play. We lost all 10. And we lost the first 4 that year. I think we had already lost one. I don't know if we already played a game or we'd already lost one game or what. But anyway, he came out. We agreed, this is the right thing. Like, he's on the team. Practice for, we got to get him through helmet, shoulder pads. So he can't play that first. We're already down 2 games basically without him. I want to say he played in the 3rd or 4th game. I don't remember the exact numbers. I don't remember if we lost 13 or 14 games in a row. He played in the 3rd or the 4th game. Basically, the deal was with his mom. His mom was very hesitant about this. Did not want him to get hurt. Still worried about the baseball thing. And he was all region, like legit baseball player. Not all region player of the year, I should say, in baseball. So it's legitimate. And he ended up playing I think he made it to like AA at the end of the day. But that's so the first game was this was week 3. It was the first game that he played, and she only let him play on offense, and he played receiver. And I think we lost that game like 9-6 or something like that. The next, by the way, he was a running back as a freshman, but we were as a sophomore, and it was great at. The next game, we're like, look, we're gonna make him a free safety. Be way back here. It's not gonna be a linebacker. Mom's like, okay. And remember, this is a smart kid. And our defensive coordinator at the time, I was a JV defense coordinator. Our defensive coordinator at the time sits him down and starts drawing it up. And he says, okay, you're going to line up here 10 yards deep. This is the alignment rules and everything. And Ball goes here, you're going to come down. He's showing him the alley and all that sort of stuff. And your ball goes here, you're coming down here, and you're just some kid staring at it. And he's like, so basically, I'm a linebacker at 10 yards.
Yes.
And he's like, yes. You don't know how many coaches don't get this. And I don't even think that our defensive coordinator at the time, who I eventually stabbed in the back and took his job, of course, that's what I do. I don't even think that he, until the kid was like, I'm a linebacker at 10 yards, was like, yeah, actually. The number of coaches that I work with who, like, that's one of the first things that we have to instill in you. That safety word, that is not safety word. This isn't that kind of podcast. This that word safety banana. That means not what you think it means. He's not, guys are like, well, he's going to be 28 yards deep because he's the last line of defense. Screw that. You are killing your football team if he's your last line of defense. He's one of the first lines of defense. So this is the deal with the safety. If you have a kid who will play like a linebacker at 10 yards and can also cover deep, that's the difference between if the rest of the players on your D, so he's not a safety. He's like an enforcer, like is a better word for it. He's coming up and he is if they run the ball, he is cleaning it up. Hopefully, if the rest of your defense is good, he's coming in there and he's third guy. He can go rip for the strip or anything like that. If they try to throw it, he's covering hash to hash to the end of the to the back line, right? Whether it's cover one or cover three. Quarters is a little bit different. In the run game, quarters is not different. In the pass game, quarters is a little bit different because he has to match. But the key is with him, if he can come up there and do that, if you have that guy that runs downhill, not the banana route over the top, doesn't sit back and all this stuff, if you have that guy that is coming up and playing the alley, and then also can clean up if somebody else misses a tackle, it will make a bad defense average. So back to our kid, 14 games we have lost. The first game, he starts at free safety. He absolutely decleats a kid across the middle when it was legal. I mean, one of the greatest hits I've ever seen in my life. And that set a tone immediately that middle of the field's closed. Like, shit. Middle of the field is closed. We played teams that we lost a game 10-0. And I remember the other team had two kids that went to Virginia. By the way, he ended up going to Virginia too. I want to say they had two kids that went to Virginia, or maybe one went to Virginia Tech, but they had three legit D1 kids on their offense. We lost 10-0 because we didn't have anything offensively.
Right. But
middle of the field closed. And he hit kids at the line of scrimmage. A great free safety. Probably one of the only Division I kids I've ever coached. Maybe the only like Division I defensive player. He ended up having a degenerative knee condition, and ended up going back to baseball after a few years. But so never really panned out, but at the college level. But we lost 14 games in a row without him. He came back, we went 3-4, and it was because we couldn't score.
Right.
But and that's because we couldn't just hand the ball to him, because there was still that restriction on us. So the right free safety takes a bad defense. A great free safety takes a bad defense and makes them, I would say we were an average defense, if not above average. Terrible offense. A great free safety makes a good defense great. Vice versa. A bad free safety makes an average defense average. An average free safety makes an average defense average. An average, an above average defense with a bad free safety goes from above average to average. So if you put your worst kid back there because he's a quote unquote safety and he's just going to be back there the last line of defense, That's a huge mistake. I think the free safety should lead your team in tackles. And they shouldn't. If your defense is good, they won't be solos, right? But they'll be assists. He's coming in there and cleaning it up.
Yeah.
He's the second guy there every time. So what makes the free safety good in a 4-2-5? And it doesn't matter his alignment, his pass coverage changes, his alignment changes if you go split field quarters, but he is still the alley defender both ways. The strong safety, weak safety are force. This is universal. The 4 down linemen and the 2 linebackers are spill in your run fits. So umbrella run fits, if you want to learn it, go to Foundations. Go to jointanimalfootball.com/foundations. There's a video that teaches it. The right guy is a linebacker at 9 or 10 yards. He is screaming downhill. You talk about how do we handle RPOs? They go 3-by-1 and they want to run a little mini curl with number 3. How do we handle that? You have a kid who's standing at 9 yards over top of him, who reads quarterback handoff ball up, ball down. He sees quarterback ball up. He comes driving downhill and he separates that football. Or, we had teams that wanted to attack us as a heavy cover 1 team. They would go too tight and they would try to attack us with 4 verts and work the free safety. And they did a very good job. We had one team that did a very good job of dinking it over the linebacker's head underneath the free safety. We check man coverage, blitz guy off the edge, and free safety is man coverage on that guy when he goes to throw it to him. It's just easy pick. So he can play. The most important characteristic is he will play downhill and play like a linebacker at 10 yards. He is aggressive on the run. Your corners are the last line of defense. They're your stay in coverage guys. But then the second thing is that he can play. He has, what makes him great. What makes him good is a linebacker at 10 yards. What makes him great is a linebacker at 10 yards that can also cover hash to hash 17 yards deep to the end zone and can take away, ideally hash +2, right? So that if you throw anything on the hash, it's easy for him to get to. That's so, size, don't care. Obviously everybody wants a 6'2", 200, 210 guy, but I've seen 5'7", 140 do it great. Speed, yes.
Speed, yes.
But doesn't have to be a burner, right? Athletic speed and movement. Take your 4.8 kid. You're not a burner. Take your 5.0 kid. If you'll play like a linebacker, you teach him how to move on the field, and you teach him good key reads. Now you're a 5.0 kid. Even though the purpose of athletic speed and movement training is not to increase your 40 time, it will happen. Now he's a 4.8 kid, and he plays on the field like a 4.6 kid because he can change directions better than most of the 4.6 kids, and that's what's going to matter. So, size, I'm not concerned about. Speed, we can build. We can. That story that you can't teach speed. That's from people who don't know how to teach speed. You can. And I think that's, and then the third factor is he's a leader, because you want him to be the field general for you. That's what you're looking for.
Yep, I was going to talk about football IQ and just being able to, what we lean on free safety a lot is, getting other people where they're supposed to be. He's the guy that limits your mistakes on defense, as much as possible. As my eyes have been open to more complex defenses, we're currently in a 4-2-5 that's matches more closely 4-3 sometimes. And I guess it's TCU's latest 4-2-5 endeavors. So we play it. That free safety, sometimes he's not the middle. We have a boundary safety that sometimes is going to end up playing the post, and you're driving your free safety, He could be in the flats. He could be over that third. I mean, we're pushing him all over the place. And so after seeing that, getting out of the cover one, cover three mindset, like a star free safety has to be able to do it all. He is in the box as a linebacker. He is coming off the edge. Sometimes he's showing it, sometimes he's not. He may be coming out and playing the flats like an outside linebacker. So it truly has to be a kid who understands football. That IQ has to be way up there, because when you have 6 or 7 defensive calls and then you're playing split field, so you're calling, 1 or 2 of those each play, that dude's got to be able to keep everybody else straight. He has to know what's going on both sides, regardless of what his duties are. So
he really, even at cover one, cover three, but also in quarters. And the thing in quarters, the free safety truly is, because even though you're too high, the weak safety is still the force. The free safety, Mike Favreau, who's a head coach out in Utah, and I saw speak at a Glacier Clinic when I was first learning this, probably a decade ago. He talked about the importance of the free safety, and his big thing was he's not accounted for in the blocking schemes a lot. So why would he sit back?
Right.
He's got to come down there. If he will come down and play it, then you're +1 essentially, because a lot of times, again, he's not accounted for. I don't know the number of coaches that I've talked to. We on our truck toss play, we come down and we crack the safety.
Right.
Well, the crack block changed, and we have to come down and basically play basketball with him. And the number of coaches that I've heard who said we quit crack blocking and we just stalk block. Please stalk block me. Please stalk block. Go block my corner, because he's not involved in the run
at all.
At all.
You're going to chase him to 15 to 28 yards.
I am begging you to stalk my corner and let my safety run free. Begging you to do that. And teams are doing that because a lot of coaches gave up with the new crack rules instead of working around it.
Right.
Instead of figuring out a way. So, yeah, and that was his big thing, was he's unblocked. So get him involved.
So we'll jump to the second question here. Kind of we outlined what a star looks like. I mean, it's like you said, it was the D1 guy you've ever coached. You immediately had to get him at free safety. He should be your best skill player. I don't think there's really a question there. So what is the role of the free safety in the 4-2-5? And I guess we could start basic here and then work our way to more complex, and we've kind of mentioned most of it here, so this should be a pretty short section, honestly.
He's the alley defender. So, spill players defend the inside half of the gap. They attack the inside half of the lead blocker. They tackle the inside hip of the ball carrier, track the inside hip of the ball carrier. Basically, if the ball carrier is going to have two options, either I'm going to tackle him or he is going to continue to bounce to the outside and move east-west, and I'm not going to allow him to go north-south on me. So that is job number one of the spill players. Those are the guys under the umbrella. The umbrella is formed by the free safety, the three safeties. Strong safety and the weak safety are force. They attack the outside half of any lead blocker, rip through his outside. They set the edge. They attack the outside half of the track the outside hip of the ball carrier. The free safety is the alley. So the importance of the free safety is that if my spill players are spilling and my force player is setting the edge, the better they do it, the less space there is between my spill guys and my force guy. So if my force guy does a great job of setting the alley or setting the edge, and we tell him he must force a change of direction. So either that guy's going to bubble to the outside or he's going to cut back inside. If he doesn't do either one of those, I'm tackling him. But like I said, a great defense will have a very constricted alley. The defensive end will fight the reach on an outside run play. The linebackers will scrape and they will take run throughs and get flat down the line of scrimmage. We'll have backside pursuit. So we will have a very wide edge because we do a good job of pursuing that and fighting the blocks. And then the force player will come up and set the edge. And what will happen is if he does a great job of getting that key read at the right time and attacking the lead blocker, and he sets his edge and rips the outside and doesn't create vertical seams, and tightens the horizontal seam, which is vertical seam is if he goes up the field. A lot of coaches don't think about that, but if he goes to set the edge, but it's 3 yards in the backfield and everybody else is back on the line of scrimmage, there's a 3-yard vertical seam. And then I have the horizontal seam, and then we start doing Pythagorean theorem, and this seam is now very wide. A 3-yard wide, and then a 3 deep, 45, 90, all that kind of stuff. It's like 3 root 2. It's like 3 root 2 or something like that. I can't remember. I haven't done it in a while. So the end of the game is however wide that seam is, horizontal and vertical, between the edge, between the defensive ends and the linebacker and the outside safety, however wide that is the gap responsibility of the free safety. That is the alley. Alley is not a place on the field. Alley is where the edge of the last spill player, between the last spill player and the force player. And the free safety fills that. A great defensive team will have a smaller alley, but they'll still have an alley. Somebody has to fill that. That's why you can have a great 8-man front. You're 6 under the umbrella. You're 2 force players. You can have a great 8-man front, but there's still going to be an alley. It may only be a yard wide instead of being 3 yards wide or 5 yards wide or 8 yards wide. Bad free safety doesn't make the tackle in a 1-yard alley because he's playing over top and not playing downhill. You have bad defense. Right? No matter how great those guys are. Your average defense, let's say they're setting an edge and setting an alley, and it is 5 yards wide or 4 yards wide or something like that. 3 yards, whatever, 3 to 5 yards, let's just say, wide. And a great free safety is coming down. Well, your guys aren't great at spilling, and they're not great at setting the edge, but it doesn't matter because if there's an 8-yard wide alley, he owns that 8 yard because that's an 8-yard open field tackle for him. And guess what? A great player can tackle most guys in an 8-yard box. He can get them down. And so now you have a great defense because the flaws in your defense have been covered up by that guy coming downhill. So that's his role in your run game. And it's absolutely critical. I mean, it's the most important thing in your defense.
And then in the pass game, obviously it depends on what coverage you're running. Generally some type of middle of the field, whether it's cover 1, even in cover 0. He's taking the number 3 or whatever. You could put him on a 2, but you already have a safety out there. So unless you're running a blitz.
Well, if you're blitzing that safety, then he goes to number 2. Yeah.
Right. But still, he's there to monkey in the middle, a couple verts, trying to get up the seams. That's his job. Nobody's going to beat him deep in the middle of the field. Like you said, your story a minute ago, like middle of the field is closed. Welcome to Friday night. Let's go. So
it's the more ground that he can cover, the wider. In cover 3, it doesn't matter. The more ground that he can cover, the better. In cover 1, the more ground that he can cover, the wider your strong safety, weak safety can play man on number 2, number 2. And yes, we play man on number 2, and yes, there's still force. So you need a free safety who's going to help them as they get their reads. And we explain all how to do this in JDFP coaching systems over and over again. It's not that hard. We have a number of teams, including mine last year. And I'm the offensive coordinator. I was the offensive coordinator. But our defensive coordinator was like, we're better force in cover 1. I was the safeties coach. I wasn't the defense coordinator. And, I don't know. I've had years where I thought we were better force players in cover one than we were in cover three. But being able to play wider because we have a very good free safety that, middle of the field is closed. And he has to learn how to read keys and do all of that. But that's what you need is a kid who can play. One of the biggest things that we look for is average free safeties, below average free safeties, and bad, poorly coached free safeties. Not bad coaches, just coaches who miss the important details and haven't learned the stuff yet. If you haven't, that's great. Learn. Poorly coached safeties have to cheat on the pass, meaning that if the quarterback is looking one direction, he starts to drift. He reads the quarterback's eyes, right? Fine with bad quarterbacks, poorly coached quarterbacks, young quarterbacks. He reads the quarterback's eyes. And so he drifts off the midline. And what he does is he opens up the backside throw. So a great free safety stays middle. It doesn't give the quarterback a read. It's no different than feathering the option, right? If you're able to a great defensive end that can feather the option. The free safety, he tries to read on a four verts or seam routes, hitch seam or four verts. The quarterback is trying to read off of him. A bad free safety has to cheat, and he has to hope that quarterback is giving him hints. A great free safety stays middle, doesn't give the quarterback a read, and either throw that the quarterback tries to make, if he tries to do anything other than throw it away or pull it down and run it, or throw a fade ball out of bounds, the ball is getting knocked down, picked, whatever, because the free safety can play hash to hash. And he can play hash to hash late without cheating, without giving the quarterback a read.
All right, so talked about who he is, what his role is. So this is kind of the fun part, and this is where you really get to feature a great free safety, right? Because all of that, if you got 11 ones on the field, you're just putting one there to do those two jobs. Play alley, play the middle of the field. So what are the ways that we can take a star and really open our defense up? So what are some other options to feature him?
Well, one of the things that we can do, and this wouldn't be a way to necessarily feature him, but we talk about star coverage when the other team has a stud and you're looking out there and, you could just move him and have him play man on that guy. But what happens then is you're playing a 10-on-10 game and you're using we talk numbers. An average player is a 1, a bad player is a 0.5. If I'm counting up who's got the numbers advantage, an average player is a 1. Well, I've got a kid who's a 2. And I take him out there and you've got a good, let's say I've got an FBS free safety and you've got an FCS receiver. I've taken my 2 and I've put him on your 1.5. I canceled him out, but I lost my numbers advantage on the rest of the game if I play man on him. So what we can do is we can play star coverage, in which let's say that he's a slot guy. The teams that we play when they have division, when we play Division I receiver, they typically move all over the place.
Yes.
And so what we do with that free safety is we call star coverage. He is going to double wherever that guy is, no matter where he is. He is going to be the inside over the top guy. And he can still, unless you put him out, if you put your best player out at the number 1 receiver and put him out wide, he's still over top. He still, can play the run, but he's not, he can really only play one alley from there but he can play it. But if you put him in a number 2, I'm double covering your guy. Essentially everybody else is in zero coverage and I still have my allied defender because he's playing inside and over top. So he's like you said, he's kind of in that split field quarters alignment, where he can play it. He can still play both alleys. So that also helps us because a lot of times the strong safety is essentially, I still get guys who are like 4-2-5 is just a nickel defense, and I'm like, well, that's cool. Let me tell you something. The whole world calls it 4-2-5 now. Okay. Like nickel is a package,
right?
4-2-5 is a base. But the reality is that our strong safety is a glorified outside linebacker. He's a run stopper, especially in split field quarters. He's not like the weak safety. They're not interchangeable. I often will use a young inside linebacker who has not developed physically into being an inside linebacker on varsity. He's a freshman. He's a sophomore. He needs another year or two in the weight room. But mentally and his play physically, just not his body, he's a varsity linebacker. So he needs to be a $190. He's a $160. I can't start him at Mike linebacker because he won't survive the season. But I can start him at strong safety. Now, he's great against the run. He has a strong weakness in the passing game. The better the free safety, the more I can hide that kid because the free safety can help him greatly in the passing game. So in those ways, your free safety can help deficiencies. So it's not really featuring him, but he's taking away the deficiencies in your defense. He's canceling the numbers game. We've done the same thing. I mentioned playing him all over the place. We will drop him down into the alley if we have a tendency. I see a lot of coaches doing this on jet motions. I don't love that unless you just have a really strong tendency on your jet motions, because most teams have a counter if you decide to drop him down and overplay the motion.
Right.
But think of that concept of we've got some sort of read. Daniel's got a fly at his office right now.
It is wearing me out.
Yeah, working him. We're about to cancel the podcast because of this fly. But we drop him down in the alley, just like you said. Sometimes, I mean, we had a team that was doing nothing but running strong field or bench, or I can't remember what the tendency was. I can't remember if it was bench or field, but this was a JV game. And so I'm up in the box. I was the head coach, up in the box on the headset. And I can't remember what I told him at halftime, or I told our JV defensive coordinator. I said, look, they've run this direction or this tendency every single time, and they're hurting us there. Free safety was the best player. We took the strong safety and dropped him down. The strong safety was a glorified linebacker. Put him in C gap, move the free safety out, and said, you are now the strong side force player. And essentially made the strong safety the C gap, the alley player, but we stuck him in the alley. Very much like a 4-3 would do. And basically, again, a numbers advantage. They had a numbers advantage. They were better than us, and they were outnumbering us to the strong side. We abandoned the weak side. We subtracted a half a player to the weak side. And we still had a weak safety, and we still had our weak side end. They could try to run a counter. We were begging them to. But we took away the play. You can just drop him down into we dropped him down as the force and squeezed the strong safety in, but you can vice versa, and we will just drop him down against a single wing team, like an unbalanced single wing, where they have a very strong tendency to the unbalanced side. Drop strong safety down to cancel the gap. Leave everyone else where they're at. So 5 ways to defend unbalanced. Right? You do nothing.
Do nothing. That's my favorite.
That's my favorite one. And more teams do that to us than anything. You can do nothing. You can slide everybody one man. You can slide the defensive lineman one man, but leave the linebackers. You can slide the linebackers one man, but leave the defensive line. You can move a guy over, which is typically how people handle something like a twins formation, like an I twins formation, twins closed, whatever, or trips closed formation, where there's no split receiver to one side as you corners over. You move one man over. Well, what we can do is we can move the free safety, be the one man over. Nobody else move. Play your gap. The free safety is going to move over and play that news D gap area, and just drop him down in the box, because they're probably not great at passing in single wing. And that's an adjustment. And we've essentially taken, in that way, instead of moving an entire man over, we've taken a half man from the backside. You do have some deficiencies. Now what happens now is your linebacker becomes your alley. You don't have to tell him this, because as I said, the alley defender, even though his job is tying everything together, he plays like a linebacker. So in the 4-3, we don't have a true alley defender, but we have 3 linebackers. So you by not moving anyone else, your will linebacker is actually lined up in what would have been conceptually, he's lined up on the outside of the guard, and then there's a tight end. So he's lined up essentially in like a C gap area. So
Right.
he can now scrape and play the alley for you. It just I can move him in ways. The most common way is to move him down into that strong side area, and add that plus 1, even though it's only plus a half, but just force him in there. It can move him in ways that he takes away something, and essentially adds to the count. Just gives us a numbers advantage.
This summer when I was working with the guys over there at Tulsa, Dom taught me some pretty cool things they do with free safety, and they do walk him down a lot, and they play him in the box. But he becomes a part of their blitz package pretty quickly because if you're playing, base 4-2-5 and you can go essentially cover zero, but you got a dude who can get through there pretty quick. They can't account for him, and if they account for him, they're leaving another linebacker open, and so you start with this more complex blitz package, and just playing some cover zero. And it was pretty fun. It was fun to like conceptualize and draw up some stuff and see how it could work. You've got to have ones everywhere else, I think, if you start eliminating your two from the middle of the field. But, short yardage or whatever situation, you could find it advantageous to send another blitzer that they can't account for, that probably started at 10 to 12 anyway and came down to the box late. So he's not in the blocking count. It kind of made some things come to life for that defensive package pretty quickly.
So going back to that 2005 kid, we had all the normal blitzes. It was a base 4-4, 4-2-5, same thing. We had all the normal blitzes, with the linebackers, but obviously like he was the best kid. In our 4-2-5 system right now, we don't have a lot of blitzing, but it's for the free safety. I like him being there to clean things up. But our base blitz package was essentially, I'll say that the thing that was missing was I would have to sit down and draw this up to get it right within our packages, because it's not. But this is a really simple thing that we did. We had arrow, bomber, dagger. Okay, so arrow, free safety went A gap. Bomber, the free safety went B gap. Dagger, the free safety went off the edge. I think we did something very similar at Ellsworth too. And at Ellsworth, we played a too high. So when we brought the free safety, we rolled the weak safety middle of the field and played a 3 under 3 deep, which is very simple to do. You can bump the will backer out a little bit. Before that, I think we played zero. I think we should play cover zero. But you can bring that guy, and it was a very simple way to just arrow, bomber, dagger, and arrow A gap, blitz him A gap, bomber blitzes in B gap, and dagger blitz him off the edge. And it's really simple calls to put in there. And again, you can run, especially if you're too high, you can run a 3 under 3 deep, and it's a blitz. So, it's got its flaws, but as far as, who's force and everything, but you can move, we had some line stunts with it that would clean up the gap issues, and because you're inserting the free safety.
Right.
Essentially as a defensive lineman. So you're closing off one bubble with the free safety. But a lot of times, like you said, he's not accounted for. And I think the arrow, I want to say the arrow brought him down like our machete blitz. So what would happen is the nose would cross face of the center, and he would go weak side A gap. That allowed the will backer to widen out, the end to come B gap, so that the weak safety could roll back, and the will could essentially play the role of force there. Not perfect, but cleans up some stuff, and we're blitzing the free safety. And I can't remember where bomber hit. I think it was the same thing. I think bomber was the 3 tech cutting into A gap, and the free safety coming into B gap. So those were both crossfire. I mean, we're getting that crossfire action, and he's not getting picked up a lot.
Right. Because even if they're going to block if it's zone, I mean, you try to think about running, like they're going to count for a linebacker.
Yeah, they're counting linebackers.
That dude's going to go scream at whatever lineman comes off is like, I have to get there or else. And then,
right.
Yep. Sorry about you, homie.
and then the dagger just came off the edge, and it was just a army strong edge, and it was just a full defensive line slant away type of thing. And he could come off the edge there. So nothing C gap, but just you could probably easily do it if you wanted to blitz him C gap. But and then you can do more than that. But that was a nice way if you want to blitz the free safety to get him in there. So there you go. Everybody's always asked about blitzing the free safety and how we could blitz the free safety, and I've always just said we don't blitz the free safety. That's how you can blitz the free safety. We'll draw it up in a chalk talk one day.
If he's great, and everyone else has to be pretty average.
He's got to be worth it.
If he's covering for anyone, if he's hiding anybody in the secondary, and you take him out of there, they will find you.
And that's the thing is that package. I think about what we were doing at Ellsworth, and I think about what we were doing when we were running that 4-4. The rest of the defense was terrible, but he was dynamic and he could go. We didn't do it. Now, we did not do it much with him his senior year. That was more a package that we ran his sophomore year. What we were doing at Ellsworth, that defense ended up being number 24 in the country. We had multiple Division I. I mean, it was NJCAA, so we had multiple. We had JUCO All-Americans. We had multiple Division I players. We had plenty. Almost everybody could play Division II. So when we were blitzing that free safety, no offense to him, he was from Iowa. The rest of the defense was from Miami. That's how you recruit. So we weren't blitzing the best player on the defense, but he could make something happen when we did. You're exactly right. If you're going to blitz him, he better not be the kid who just gets picked up. Right. He better be the kid who comes through and just ruins everybody's life.
Right. Yep. All right, man. Well, we've checked all the boxes. It's weirdly early in the day. So I want to say tonight, but it's not tonight. It's
weirdly early in the day. Yeah. We have bright lights shining into the room, and
yeah. I've learned that this is not a morning recording office.
I have blackout curtains. I have these sound absorption curtains. These curtains cost $200.
Jesus Christ.
They are sound absorption. When I first moved into this house, there was nothing in this room. And I was like, oh, well, the room's twice the size of what I was recording in my old house. And so I was like, well, I need, to soundproof everything. It turns out not really. What I really needed to do was get stuff in here. As soon as I had a couch and, we have books and as soon as you start putting stuff in here, you don't need it. But
right.
There was one other thing about the free safety that cover zero and using him in coverage. Did we talk? We kind of touched on it, but one of the things that he can do for you is allow you to blitz everyone else. So if he's a guy who can also play zero, so our Tiger Cat blitz, 4-2-5 defense system, Tiger Cat blitz, one of my favorite calls in all of defensive football. It is a cover zero delay blitz. What it does is however many offensive linemen you have, however many available blockers you have, we have one more. If you go empty, Tiger adjusts to play cover zero and bring 6. You have 5 blockers. If you go 10 personnel where you've got you've got 5 blockers, a quarterback and a running back, we are going to have 7 guys coming. And when I say they're blitzing, they're not I'll get to that. But if you go I formation, we're going to have 8. But what happens in Tiger Cat is it is not an all-out blitz. What you do is you take away the pass responsibility of whichever safeties and the 2 inside linebackers are not in coverage. So you now have 6, 7, 8 guys that are just focused on the run. So whereas a lot of people think, well, this is an 8-man blitz, it's great to use against the pass. No, it's great against the pass, but it's cover zero. What happens is when they still have their run pass read. When they get their run read, they play run, like always. when they get their pass read, they blitz. So it's a delay blitz. So you're cover 0, we're +1. We trust that we can play man coverage for 2 seconds. The free safety isn't a blitzer in that. It's the strong safety and the weak safety that are blitzers. So the free has to go out and play man coverage so that we can bring the strong safety as much as possible. Only in trips is the strong safety not coming, and the backside weak safety will be coming in that situation. The free safety's ability to do 2 things in that. Number 1, to recognize who is everywhere and know, hey, he's going. So what I tell our free safety is you got to make sure that everybody's got a guy over top of him. And he's got to look, even though he's responsible for the strong side number 2, he's got to make sure weak side number 2's got his guy. He's got to, the corners are pretty much, they're always on number 1. They're press man, they're fine. But he's got to check and see, hey, who's I'm here, who's I'm gone, all these things. His ability to do that allows us, and not just to do that, on a chalkboard, motion, bump, 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 check, check, check. You think about split field quarters coverage. Safety's looking this side of the field. Safety's looking this side of the field. Free safety's the only guy who knows it's trips, right? Because everybody else is like, I got 1, I got 2, I got whatever. He's got to see 3. He's got to make the trips calls, check roll, check solo, check special. He's got to make all those calls. So he's such an important guy in that his ability to play man coverage, his ability to police the middle of the field. Because even if you're split field quarter, I mean, some teams will go straight split field quarters. Most teams will also have some sort of cover 1, cover 3 type of call. So he's going to have to be able to do man. If he's quarters, he's going to need to be able to jump curl route, and come down and slow play that and read off the quarterback. But then the ability to go out and play man coverage and the ability to be a run defend, an extra linebacker, like he's just so important. And we're still in this mindset. So many coaches are still in this mindset. I started to say this at the beginning. So many coaches are still in this mindset that your best football player is your Mike linebacker. This game is not played between the tackles anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this game is not played A gap, B gap anymore. Some teams do. But if your best player is now a great Mike linebacker can play sideline to sideline, no doubt. But this game is played down the field. This game is played on the RPOs into the flats. This game is played off of reads and zone reads. This game is played off of jet sweeps and rocket sweeps and buck sweeps. And, you look at the best play outside zone. Very few teams. We were a good inside zone team last couple of years. But what made our inside zone really good was the ability of the quarterback to pull it and run the alley, run the edge. That's what opened up our inside zone more than anything. We did a good job blocking it, but not as much as having a quarterback who was a threat. This game, on a lot of the teams that you play, and that includes your wing tees, that includes your single wings, that includes your double wings, although double wing's a different animal. Double wing plays C gap and out, right? That it's not an A gap run play. It's not dive. They'll run wedge and all that sort of stuff. But most of your games are going to be won C gap out, and they're going to be won in space. And I want my best player to be able to play all those spaces, not to be confined. So the mindset of our best player is the Mike linebacker. Everybody loves a great Mike linebacker, but the guy that's going to make the difference in today's game is your free safety.
I agree. It seems like, sorry, kiddo's making noisy now. Definitely hearing.
Nap time just ended.
Yes.
This is what happens when we try to record during the day.
That's right. Nap times are over, and moms are making real money at work. So
time to go. Wrap it up. Nap time's over.
It seems like the most inside gap you have to defend anymore is whatever that person's power play hits. So if they're an A gap power team, you got to defend a little bit of A gap. But outside of that, they're nullifying your Mike pretty quick. Whether they're going to get him washed, or you're just, if he's in the spill, he's got a job, and that's close a gap, close an open window. And once he's done that, and I feel like I can pretty much send anybody into that gap to do that.
Yeah, well, just look at the RPO game. How many teams can read your Mike linebacker and make him wrong no matter what?
Yeah, almost all of them.
How many teams can read your free safety and make him wrong?
It's quite a bit harder.
It's a lot harder to read the free safety 12 yards off the ball than it is to read the Mike linebacker who's got to fill a gap now.
Yep. All right, so we'll pay the bills and get out of here then. Baby's decided the show's over.
Yep.
First of all, if you're somebody that was waiting around for the very first ever recorded podcast together in the same room, sorry about you. Flights, my man. I didn't book my flight. I didn't go to.
We had poor organization on this. I have not done an in-person install in years, and so I'm doing an in-person install tomorrow as of this recording, and I haven't done it in years. So like the planning and the scheduling of it was a
logistics.
Yeah, nightmare.
But we will get it.
My son's birthday is the Saturday, right. So I got to go up there and turn around and come back.
So, maybe in the next upcoming year, if you want to hire Joe and I to come install, we just got to make sure we schedule it better. It'd be fine, though. Anyway.
We'll also get there.
Right. Join.joedanielfootball.com. Get access for $1. Gives you 7 days. Fully open. There's no other paywalls until that payment comes out at the end of that 7th day. Join.joedanielfootball.com. 4 defensive packages, 4-3, 4-2-5, 3-3 stack, and the 3-4. Remember that those can be used all as one system, so you can be very multi if you want to. If you want to incorporate a stud free safety and some free 4-3 stuff,
eventually
you can look into it eventually. Don't do it day one. Pistol Power offensive system is also there. We'll be talking about Pistol Power offense next week. Pretty sure next week we're doing an offensive player, so it will come to life then. Chalkboard forums, come in, ask your questions, and coaches from all over the world really will answer them. Joe generally gives his answer on those as well. Chalk Talks, we're almost back to weekly. What we got, like the rest of this month? August, we're back to weekly?
As of this coming out, we'll be probably weekly, by probably the 31st and on, I think.
There we go.
We may
every week.
We'll be on the 24th, and I don't know if we're weekly on the 31st or on August 7th. About to check the schedule.
There you go.
Make that decision.
It will come out. And then, of course, game film analysis. If you go in and get the platinum package, you get the game film analysis, and that's where you make your money. That's where Coach or one of his employees, you got employees, we'll check out your game film.
They're definitely independent contractors.
There you go. And give you, the low-hanging fruit, things you should be fixing. And then you can take that and build a drill and go from there.